We've all been there, done it, got the t-shirt. We've all had to sit and watch Induction DVDs. And yep, this is another one. Some of what you're about to see may seem familiar. Some of what you're about to see you may think is even irrelevant to what you do. But people still die in accidents at work in the UK every week. So all we ask is that you give us your attention for the next 15 minutes. Because you never know, some of what you're about to see may even end up saving somebody's life. Lovell is a member of the Considerate Constructors scheme. Our refurbishment sites can have a big impact on people's lives. Many sites are right in the middle of sensitive residential areas. But if at Lovell we can manage our sites competently and efficiently, be aware of environmental issues, and above all, be good neighbours to the surrounding community, then together we'll be a positive advertisement, not just for Lovell, but for the construction industry as a whole.
On the refurbishment side of the business, we work on a whole host of different projects, from internal upgrades and disabled adaptations to re-roofing and rain screen cladding.
Whatever the project, before you do anything else, you must sign in when you arrive and sign out before you leave.
External refurb projects, that will be at a site office like this one.
For internal projects, that'll be a Lovell depot like this. If you're going direct to a property, you can sign in when you get there. All the relevant Lovell paperwork you will need will be on a property information board.
On Lovell sites, as with all sites, standard PPE must be worn at all times. In other words, hard hat, high-vis vest, protective footwear and safety gloves. Site management can, on occasion, relax the need to wear a hard hat. For example, when you're working indoors in an occupied property. Whatever you're doing, make sure you've got the right PPE for that particular job. If it involves a mask, then face-fit testing must be carried out to make sure it correctly fits the wearer. If what you're doing creates heat, sparks or fire, then a hot works permit must be obtained from site management. All agreed precautions must be complied with. If they haven't done so already, as part of this induction, your supervisor or site manager will brief you on your company's safe systems of work and familiarise you with the latest asbestos register and COSH assessments.
At the top there, you'll see that you must sign.
They'll also take you through emergency procedures, what to do in case of fire. They'll show you where the washrooms are, and they'll take you through some other rules that are specific to this particular site.
They'll also show you where the first aid kits are. You'll find them either here in the van
or here in the site office. At your induction, you'll be given a list of who the qualified first aiders are on this site. Please familiarise yourself with who these people are.
Any accidents or near misses must be reported immediately, no matter how trivial. Reporting a near miss is really important to us.
If you're bringing mobile plant or power tools onto site, they'll need to be inspected before use and the details entered in the appropriate register. Also, Lovell will need to see documentary evidence of your competence to use them. If you're bringing electrical tools, it's 110 volt maximum. All Lovell sites are strictly non-smoking, and that includes vaping. However, there will be an area designated by site management where you can smoke or vape.
Okay, if you fully understood the induction, here is your ID badges. Please put them in the ID pockets on your vests so they're fully shown as you're entering the properties. And at the same time, could you please fill in the information within the induction register for our purpose.
Working on a refurbishment site is very different to working on a new build site.
Just to introduce yourself and explain what works you're going to be carrying out.
I'm Gary from Lovell. I've come to check.
Show them your ID badge and just explain where you're from, who you're working for.
I've come to take your bathroom out. Is that okay?
Come on in.
Thank you.
You have to respect the tenants' houses and treat them like your own, basically.
Obviously cover all the furniture, make sure the floor's protected.
If you leave the property, to let the tenants know, just to treat them like you'd like to be treated in your own home.
Just, you know, simple things like pop into the shop, just let them know exactly where you are, how the work procedure is going to take place and how it's going to happen throughout the day. Just keep them informed basically at all times.
If there's a 16-year-old in the property, we will not work in there unless there's an adult supervised.
The tenant goes out and the daughter or son comes back home, room under 16, we have to leave the property, we have to cap the gas meter off, isolate the water, isolate the electrics, leave till a family member over 16 attends the property.
The housing officer is the key of communication between the site and the tenants, so the tenants know what's happening in the properties, who's going in the properties each day.
If we have any issues with the tenant, we just basically leave the house, call for a tenant liaison officer. He or she will come down then and they will sort the problem and the issue out with the tenant themselves.
Remember, when you're on a refurbishment site, you are the face of Lovell. We want you to be ambassadors for the company.
No matter what trade you're involved in, the chances are at some point you will be working at height. And working at height is one of the most dangerous things you can do. On refurb sites, in order to limit disruption to residents and the public, scaffolds are programmed to be erected just in time for works to begin and then removed at the earliest opportunity.
Any scaffolding can only be altered by a qualified scaffolder.
If access ladders are being used, they must be secured on both stiles at the top to a secure fixture. Guardrails and edge protection must be in place at all times. If you ever discover that items of scaffolding are missing or have not been constructed properly, report it immediately to your supervisor or the site management.
Remember, unless you're a qualified scaffolder, you do not touch it.
Whichever delivery method you use, make sure the appropriate gates and barriers are in place to prevent falling materials. If you're working at height inside a building, make sure you use the right equipment, particularly around stairwells. And remember, you could be in a building that people are actually living in, so use the correct barriers and signage. They need to know where people are working and the areas to avoid.
When you're working at height, never ever improvise.
Slips, trips and falls are a direct result of poor housekeeping. Please keep your work areas clear and tidy. Regularly clear your waste using the appropriate skips and rubbish containers. And strictly no bombing.
Keep all cables out of harm's way.
Store materials away from walkways and doorways.
Don't leave tools lying around, keep it tidy.
As a basic rule of thumb, before you start a job, take 20 seconds to assess your workplace. Are there any potential hazards? And when the job is done, take another 20 seconds. Am I leaving it safe and tidy for other people?
Parking facilities are going to be limited on most refurbishment sites. If you're lucky, there'll be a site car park. If not, you'll have to find a parking space in the surrounding area. Wherever it is, make sure you park responsibly and avoid causing any inconvenience to residents. Never block a disabled bay or an emergency vehicle access. If you need to, pay for a parking ticket. At your site induction, you'll be given one of these. It's a courtesy card with the site office telephone number on it. Always display it on your dashboard so that you can be contacted if there is a problem with where you're parked.
On all level sites, pedestrians and vehicles must be effectively segregated at all times. Always abide by the rules and familiarise yourselves with the site traffic management plan. And please, always use the walkways provided and the designated crossing points. And if there is plant in the area, make sure you get the thumbs up from the plant operator before crossing. And be prepared to challenge anybody not abiding by the rules.
For children, correct lifting technique is automatic. But as adults, we get lazy, we get complacent, we bend our spines, lift with our backs, and do ourselves a lot of damage.
Says it all really. Back problems can build up over time, so it pays to pick things up in the right manner from the start. A bit like we did when we were kids. And whenever possible, make use of the mechanical aids provided.
Again, whatever you're doing, take time to assess the situation before you lift or move something, and if in doubt, ask and get advice.
From time to time, you may need to use substances that are potentially harmful or dangerous. Always double check the label to make sure you've got the right substance for the job. Before you use any substances, make sure you've read the relevant COSH assessment. Remember to lock the door behind you. Never eat or drink when you're handling substances, and wash your hands after using them.
And remember, always use the right PPE for the job.
Dust is another issue. When working at residence property, dust must be kept to a minimum by using dust extraction.
Before work starts, Lovell will arrange for a survey to be done in each property, and they'll compile what's called an asbestos report, copies of which you can find in the site office or on the information boards in each of the properties. That said, if you are ever in a property and you discover something which you think looks in any way suspicious, stop what you're doing and leave the property immediately and report it to your supervisor. And don't go back to the property until you've been given the all clear to do so. Similarly, if you're in a property and you discover any discarded needles or sharps, again, stop what you're doing, leave the property and report it to site management, and they will arrange for those items to be collected and disposed of.
Switch off general lighting when not required.
Turn off plant machinery when not in use.
Before you bin it, have a think, can you reuse it or recycle it?
Never wash brushes or rollers out in a residence sink. Always take them away and use the utility sink.
They may seem like little things, but it all adds up. And if we all do something, then it can really make a difference. Who knows? We might even leave the planet in a half-decent state for our kids. Never touch anything, gas or electric, unless you're qualified to do so. Even if it's loosening a socket to tile behind, don't do it. Do not start any work until an electrician has physically locked off the power supply and fitted safety shields or UZ boxes.
All gas works must be carried out by a suitably qualified gas-safe engineer. Documentation must be presented to site management and retained at the office.
Whoever you are and whatever you're doing, never ever block a chimney,
gas or air vent. It's potentially lethal.
If you ever discover a blocked or damaged chimney or vent, report it to site management immediately.
Site security is really important. If your site's got a boundary fence, never open it and go through it unless you are authorised to do so. And if it has been opened, then close it and secure it. Never leave your valuables unattended. Close the gates at the bottom of scaffold towers and tell site management that works have finished.
Scaffold should be made secure to prevent access by members of the public.
Close all doors and storage facilities.
Make sure you take your tools with you or lock them away.
At the end of the day, make sure that the site is secure.
But of course it's not the end. It's only the beginning really, because we can sit and watch Induction DVDs till we're blue in the face, quite frankly, but it all means nothing unless we take what we've seen on board. So please, before you do anything,
take 20 seconds to assess your workplace.
And if you see something which you don't think is safe, then report it to your supervisor or site manager. And if in doubt about anything, just ask. Thanks for watching. And now, the site manager will take you through the site-specific induction.